Turan is our immediate past district director. He's also an amazingly good, nice person to know, good friend. It's nice to have Turan here. And Turan, I'm going to hand over to you. You can do a proper introduction about yourself, tell people who you are, and then carry on with your workshop.
Thank you, Harry. It's my pleasure and privilege also to be in your circle of friends. So I really appreciate that. Um, well, good afternoon, I guess, for most of you, depending on where you are. It's wonderful to be here. As Harry said, I am the immediate past district director, which means that I was the district director last year. And I've covered a lot of officer roles in my career. I've been a Toastmasters for 8 years. And today I'd like to share with you some of my experience, but a lot of it will have to do with asking questions because I believe what I do well is asking questions. Okay. And I think it's one of the qualities that as Toastmasters we develop our capacity of asking questions and understanding things. As we can see, all of us online, the District 109 is a very diverse group of people. And now we also have Sushil, who is not from our district, joining us, which makes us even more diverse. So thank you for joining. We have representations from Greece, Italy, Turkey, and Switzerland, which are the main countries also of our district, the active countries, I'd say. We have a total of 16 countries in our district, as you know, which makes anything you can think about very challenging because you have to look at it from multiple perspectives. Today, I have a workshop. I'd like it to be interactive as much as possible. I don't believe I have anything to teach you in the sense of teaching, but I have a lot of ideas I'd like to share and bounce with you to see where that takes us. And hopefully we will all learn something from each other today. So I will now start with the most difficult part, which is sharing my screen and making it work. So bear with me a second. I will turn off my video as you should be able to see me and the presentation itself. Let's see if that works.
You would not see yourself if you turn off your video.
That's okay. I've seen I've had enough of myself.
Oh yeah.
So thank you, But no, I do actually see myself as a part of the presentation, so that's okay. That's more than enough of me dominating the screen.
So I think this will be interesting learning for all of us, though it is not the topic of the day. But how do you make yourself visible in the slides? This is something I have not seen before.
Oh, okay. Well, I can share that with you if that's fine with it. If everybody agrees,
Yes, please. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think anything is off topic in Toastmasters. So what I've done, I can share. I would need to share the screen in a different way to show that. But hold on. Let me, for the sake of it. So, okay, this is a Mac. So it will be different on Windows, but the concepts are the same. Hold on, let me share now the PowerPoint presentation itself. Okay, so this is the PowerPoint presentation. And what I did was I simply went to the Insert tab, okay, and I put in Cameo, right? So this then gives me, and if you do that, you will see that you have many options of being able to do that. You can do all sorts of interesting ways, diamonds and hexagons and squares and things like that. And then, as you would expect, you can actually make it any shape you want. You can play with the borders, and you can even put in effects, etc. I haven't done any of those fancy things though, so it's very simple. The good thing about this is that you can put the camera on each slide where you want it to be so that it doesn't cover anything, right? Which is not possible. Well, it is possible with the Zoom background. You can do that, but what you can't do as the Zoom background is to keep the animations. Yeah. And since I do have a couple of animations in the presentation, I thought it was better to put the cameo in the presentation itself, turn off my Zoom camera so that you will see me through the PowerPoint. And Sushil, if you want to catch up on this later, certainly by all means reach out and I'll be happy to take it further. But I will stop sharing it in that mode now. Hope that was useful for you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. So, okay, so now I need to revert to what I wanted to do. Hold on. A rollback is always difficult. Okay. So here we go. Let me know if this is working for you.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Perfect. Perfect. So the title of the workshop is Engagement is Key, and we are going to explore what that really means. Engagement is key. This is an imperfect title because it actually doesn't mean anything. And the question that would come to my mind if I see something like that is to say, well, engagement is key to what? Right? And that's the starting point of our reflections today, because I believe that engagement is key to retention. So we're going to talk about retention a bit to understand it, because retention is the way that we understand if we're really understanding our clubs and members and their needs and being able to keep them. And then we're going to talk about engagement actions, what we can do in terms of engagement actions to actually improve our retention. So what is retention in the sense of Toastmasters? Any ideas? How, when we use the word retention, you know, it's a physical word, right? So to retain something. But what are we talking about when we say retention? Yes, Dennis, please.
Probably you are meaning membership retention, like to keep the
Yes,
members.
keeping the members. Exactly. Keeping the members. Yeah. That's what we mean. The retention I'd like to argue today is the result of our engagement. Okay. The members we keep are the consequences of what we do to engage them. So that's going to be the focus of what we do today. And the way we calculate it in Toastmasters, the retention rate, obviously, has also some formulas about retention. But in this presentation, and generally what you will find online, the calculation of retention is based on the current number of members divided by the base number of members, which means the number of members that you started with on the 1st of July, plus the number of people who joined. Yeah. So if you divide these two numbers, you get your retention rate. Yeah. So let's see how we're doing in terms of retention. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please interrupt me. It's an interactive session. Ask questions, disagree with formulas. These formulas always create debates with people who look at numbers very closely, and I'm happy to discuss those as well.
Will this figure always be 100%?
It will not be 100%, Harry, because the base will be the starting point in July. There will be people who will join during the year, but then in October, the current number will drop. Okay. Right. And actually, we have to, it's good that you pointed out, we have two moments in Toastmasters where we really have a big recalculation of retention is the month after the renewals. So when we do the renewals in October, we see how many people actually renewed. And then we have a second term of renewals in April. I'll show you the numbers and then I'll comment them later on. Thank you for the question. Yes, you're right. I mean, it would seem that because nobody leaves, according to the dashboard, that the retention always stays the same, but actually it doesn't. We have two critical moments that we updated. So if we talk about retention, I got these numbers this morning. I had them in December. I looked at them this morning. So they're a couple of days old probably, but the numbers haven't changed that much. So what do you think the retention rate is in Toastmasters worldwide, everybody included, and it's a percentage? Give me your best guess.
70%.
70%. All right. We have Harry with 70%.
60.
60. Okay. Dennis says 60.
I mean, before pandemic and after pandemic would make a big difference, though.
Well, we're only looking at it from the 1st of July, 2023. Okay, so
Correct.
if we want to do history, that's a different thing. But if we just look at it from the 1st of July, 2023 to today, what is the overall retention rate in Toastmasters?
35%.
Oh, okay. So we're losing 1 out of 2, you're saying. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, actually, I have to say my good old friend Harry had it spot on. It is 70%. Exactly 70%. It's
Wow.
70.02 or something like that at the latest calculation. So that's a really good number, actually, worldwide. So what about our district? And obviously, Sushil, I don't know your district, but I'm going to help you find what it is for your district as well. Just bear with me, okay?
Sure.
All right. So what about District 109? What is our retention rate? Are we doing better than average? Worse than average? What's your feeling about it? How many faces
I-
were you seeing last year and you don't see today? You know, that's one way of asking the question.
I think we are doing better than the average.
Ah, okay. You've
Absolutely.
swung to the positive side. I see that. Okay, wonderful. Who else has a comment?
I saw a lot of people that departed in the past few months and things like that. There was a huge drop off in maybe in March, April.
Mhm.
So I'm sort of inclined to think that probably lower than 70, maybe in the mid 60s thereabouts.
Well, we're going to see that as well. I will ask you actually to go and see it. According to today's calculations, we're at 74%. Okay,
Fantastic. That's
in
great.
the district, which is a very, I mean, a 4% above worldwide average is a very good number. So I'd like to first of all congratulate everybody for that. I mean that being 4% above the average is really good. In practical terms, though, it means 1 out of 4 people leave. That's what it means. Yeah. So that's the consequence of that number. And of course, as club officers, because this is a club officer training, but you can take it and apply it at the district level, area level, division level, whatever level you want to do it. What I'd like you to consider, what about your club, the club that you're a member of? What's the club's retention rate? Interesting. I see some faces saying, I don't know really, right? Well, okay. I mean, if you've joined after July, obviously you don't know because I mean, if anybody you saw was already there. So you would have the feeling that it's 100%. But the renewals, as I said, are recalculated. The member base is recalculated at the October renewals and the April renewals. But what you can do is you can find out, which is what I would recommend that you do. So these are the 2 links. If you would like to look at specifically your club, and you will see all sorts of other good information about this. You will see the whole history. Let me see if I can get this. Hold on. If I can get this as into the chat. Okay. Bear with me a second. I'll try to make it easier for you. Okay. So for your club number, obviously you need to put in your club number. Yeah. And then if you want to look at District 109 as a whole, you can also look at that, which is quite interesting because you have the breakdown by divisions, by areas. So if you're a division director like this, you can look at your division, then your areas and see what's going on. And for social, you just need to replace the 109 and in the second link with your district number, which is what, 74?
71.
71, sorry,
71.
apologies. Yes, 71. So if you put 71 there, then you'll be able to see the whole district. You can see the area of your club, your own club, etc. Whereas with the first link, you will be able to see the whole history of the club in terms of not only retention, but the DCP points and everything else, which is quite an interesting piece of information to look at. So I'll let you look into it. And please, by all means, do look at it now because we're going to be using this information in our considerations because, as I said, all of those numbers, which are different from, let's say, the ideal number, whatever that might be, are consequences of what we did and what happened. Okay. So has everybody looked at their own club, just to understand? Give me a hands up if you've been able to do that.
Yep.
Great, okay.
Can you please put the link in the chat, because
I did, I believe. Has it not gone through?
Okay.
It's there,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Maybe. Okay, it's there. Sorry.
Okay. Good. Then you should be able to see it. And of course, if you don't know your club number, don't say that you don't know your club number, first of all. Okay, so we save a public disembarrassment, and you can use the second link to find your club number and then go and look at your club number and look at all the history, which is, I think, what you should do. Okay, so if everybody has done that, then what I would like to do is I would like everybody to share for a minute. So make sure you have your numbers with you. What is your club's current retention, and what is your retention goal for this year? So you have a number in front of you, right? And that number means something, obviously. It's a consequence of a certain number of things that has happened, but we still have more or less 6 months to go. Yeah. But in the case of retention specifically, we have up to the end of March to get our act together. Yeah, because in the end of March, people will be taking decisions about renewing or not renewing. So what is your retention goal for this year? So who would like to go first?
Yeah, I'll be brave.
Thank you, Harry.
Well, our retention figure this past period was 79.4%.
Which is a good number.
Our member base, this is a matter of interest, was 57, and we currently have 54 members and things. And it was in a way, it was nice, the clean out. There were a lot of people that had left and gone elsewhere and etc. sort of thing, and they were still lingering on our Easy Speak, on our program and things like that, but were never attending meetings. So it was a nice little clean out. To retain, I don't believe, quite frankly, in where we are, there's a lot of people that move around in and around Zurich and things. That can go. So retention, to try and aim for 100% retention, I think is probably unrealistic.
Yeah,
but
I would.
Certainly around about the 80% mark, I think, is a fairly good sort of figure. And we're gaining 2-3 members a month, so we're not really worried about that bit of a drop off.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Harry. Who else would like to share? I'd also like to hear from the new Toastmasters as well, because obviously you don't have any preconception about the retention figures. So, if you look at that number, what does that mean to you? It would be good to understand also from your perspective. So that was a cue for you, Özge, actually, but I'll call you out now.
I thought maybe there are some others.
I'm sure there are, but I'm asking you specifically then.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately I couldn't find my club. I found Anadolu Toastmasters Club, Asia Toastmasters Club, but not Anatolia Toastmasters Club. So unfortunately I cannot answer this question right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you know which division you're in, Özge?
In the Excel, it didn't written Anatolia Toastmasters District 109, Division H3, Anatolia Toastmasters. But in the Excel, when we make Control F, the club name is not written there. Maybe
so that's something to look at. Hello, Burcu.
Hi, I have shared your club number in the chat box, Özge. You can just copy paste it from there. Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, I mean, it will take time to get used to. So we have a share from Harry. We have investigations going on for Anatolia Club. Who else would like to share?
I can continue.
Please.
So my club retention rate is 97.6% in 2003. So it's huge. It's very, very high. But the problem here is that I guess okay, we are a corporate club, so
Mhm.
half of the membership fee is paid by the company and half is paid by us. That is somehow encouraging people. But each time when we ask if you are going to continue or not, like only maybe 1 or 2 members does not continue, but everyone else continues to be a member. So by paying the half of the fee. Hence, it's again always the same people that are attending the meetings and taking roles. And there are a huge number of members that they are actually not attending any meetings, but they continue to be a member. So that's actually what I would like to share.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I have a couple of comments on that, and thank you for pointing it out. First of all, obviously the retention rate is impacted by who pays. Okay, so if I'm not paying and somebody else is paying, then I don't mind. Yeah, so the commitment levels are different. The second perspective, clearly, and we will talk about this in a moment, is if we're talking about university clubs, or clubs where we know people come and people go. These are also some types of corporate clubs. For example, we have those types of clubs. One of them that comes to my mind is the Speakers Club in Rome, where people come on assignments because it's the Food and Agricultural Organizations Club. So they are assigned to Rome, they participate, and then they are assigned somebody else somewhere else, and they go. So the fact that they leave has very little to do with the engagement. It has a lot to do simply by the fact that they move professionally to someplace else. So we need to read these numbers also understanding the club dynamics. But it was just to get you focused on a measure which is available to everybody. The second thing that you talk about, Burcu, is very interesting, is about the number of active members versus the number of total members. Yeah? And that's something that we know, but we only know at the club level. It's very difficult to measure that at the, let's say, level of an area or a district. There are ways of being able to do that, but maybe that's a separate conversation to have. One of them is obviously looking at members who have received at least one educational recognition in the year. If they receive educational recognition during the year, we can assume that they're active because they're actually doing something. And if they don't receive any pathways accomplishment during the year, then we can say that maybe they're inactive members. So that's one other way of looking at it. And then we dive deeper into, I have so many members, how many of them are active, etc. But that's a very good point. Who else would like to share before I move on? One more, please. Sushil, what about you? How are things from outside the district? Give us a different perspective.
1 second, the report, it says run another report. I'm just not finding why it's not showing the information. Just give me 1 second. I'll again run the report.
Okay, no worries, no worries. If
However, I don't know why it is just doing a blank. Do we need to put that CB in front of the name of the club, or it should be only the number?
No, it's just the number of the club. But I mean, you can change the 109 with 74 and look at the district level and find your club within the list as well. That's one way of doing it. Well, okay, no, I'll move on. I mean, when you catch up, then you can interrupt me.
However, I just wanted to say something because you asked me.
Yes,
just
please.
like a lady said earlier, we are a corporate club, and in my club, the fees is paid by the company. So I have different challenge with the word engagement and retention than what you are going to discuss. So I have especially come for this meeting to understand what would retention and engagement mean for the corporate clubs. That's going to be my concern and focus to understand.
Well, then we need to talk about it as we move on. Engagement in the context of corporate clubs is certainly has its own particular aspects with regard to a community club, etc. So we'll come to that in a minute, and I would love to hear
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sushil. Okay, so I will move on. So what is the recipe for retention? I mean, if we were to just look at this from a very, let's say, top level, what do we need to do to improve our retention? Okay, I'm going to use a metaphor.
Can I answer?
Yes, please do. Yes, please, Lisa. Yes.
we need to increase or maintain the membership experience.
Okay, the membership experience. Yes, certainly. Certainly.
And engage members more and more.
Yep, that's exactly what this workshop is about. Actually, we're going to talk about what we can do to engage them more. I'd like to use the metaphor, and I hope nobody's allergic here, at least at a distance, is that happy cats stay home. Okay. This is something that we know. Cats, if they don't like you, they go away. They find a way to go away. But if they're happy, then they stay home. But what really makes them stay home, and this is my argument for today, is the fact that they're engaged. Yeah. If we can get them to play, if they can interact, then the cats will stay. And if suddenly it becomes a boring place, then they're less likely to stay. And that's what we need to do. We need to engage. We need to engage our cats if you have, especially young cats. In general, you need to make sure that your cats are happy. So it is, let's say, metaphorically speaking, what Liesel said in terms of improving the membership experience. So thank you for that. If there's anything I need to read in the chat, please let me know, because I see things in the chat, but I haven't read them. So Harry, I will count on you to let me know if there's anything I need to know in the chat. Because I see that there have been things written there.
I'll keep my eyes on it if it's something that's relevant to you, Turan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Harry. All right, so let's start looking at understanding our clubs. We already dived into this, so I will be quick here. We have community clubs in our district. We have corporate clubs in our district. We have college, university clubs in our district. And they have different, obviously, they have different types of texture. You know, the community clubs, we have also the community clubs which are bilingual, trilingual, or you need to speak a certain language. That we have community clubs that require a certain characteristics to be able to join. And in the corporate world, we have corporate clubs that are open to the public, that are closed to the public. We have, as Burcu pointed out and as Sushil pointed out, you have corporates that pay some part of the membership or all of the membership. There are corporate clubs that don't pay, but they provide you the resources and the rooms and everything else. It goes on and on. So there are different dimensions to it, but clearly understanding the type of your club is the starting point, right? And also understanding any of these clubs can be an in-person club, they can be a hybrid club, or they can be a fully online club. And that also changes things, because with an online club, engagement has a different flavor with regard to an in-person club. With the online clubs, you don't have the pre-meeting and post-meeting social events. In hybrids, so it has different strategies as well. You have clubs that are hybrid each meeting. You have clubs that are in person one day in 1 week and then fully online the next, and they're counted as hybrid. So even the word hybrid has many connotations to it. In terms of understanding how you are, how would you define if you're a member of more than one club, like some of you I know are, take your home club or just one club and tell me, is it an in-person club, a hybrid club, or an online club? Is it a community club, corporate club, college club? I know Burcu already said it's a corporate club, but we don't know at the moment if it's an in-person, hybrid, or online club. So Burcu, I'll start with you.
At the moment, we are hybrid, actually. But before the pandemic, we used to be an in-person club, and we were meeting around lunchtime at the office. But then with the pandemic, as we started to work from home, we became an online club. And being online, actually, we increased our number of members by double, because people working not in the head office would also be able to attend the meetings. So that's why we continue to be online for a while. But then we also miss to be on the stage, actually. And then now we are doing it hybrid since like 2-3 months maybe, and it's working very well. So we are a corporate hybrid at the moment.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share?
Hi, I was able to put the statistics. I put that in the chat. I found. So
Okay.
we have grown by 18% and we are at 92.9 retention right now, which is a great thing.
Compliments, Sushil. Okay.
Yeah, and actually we were struggling during pandemic because after we started, it was mainly that was the time when we started, and the hybrid model, rather online model, was not working for us at all. We couldn't generate that kind of awareness or strength of being the club earlier. But the moment we were allowed to come in the office, we changed to in-person club primarily, and then the club suddenly started being extremely strong. And then after we gained the understanding of how we are going to handle the club, we also allowed online participation. So right now we are hybrid. The people who cannot make it in person, only they are allowed to be online. Otherwise, we are expecting people to come in person for the club. So this worked very well for us now.
Interesting. Okay, so similar strategies here. Let's hear a different example then. Somebody who's not from corporate and who's not hybrid. Oh, none. I'm impressed. Everybody. So well then, speak up. Somebody speak up so I understand how it is. So we don't have anybody who is purely in person or purely online.
So our club is in person only, community and in person only. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And how did you choose that? Because in the corporate, I can understand the decision process could be different, but it's a community club, right, Harry? So how did you come to that decision of having it online, having it in person only, and not doing the hybrid?
They were always an in-person club. During COVID, they went online for a while, and then for a very brief period after COVID, there was a certain amount of hybrid, but then they decided to go back to in-person. I think we all believe that in-person is the best way for people to learn how to speak. There's so much that you miss out on if you're sitting behind a computer screen, basically. There's body language that you just don't get the same amount of feedback. There's not the feedback from the audience isn't the same in an audio video environment as what it is in an in-person environment. So we felt that our members could learn a lot more by being in person. So we went back to in person.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'm a member of 3 clubs. One of them is purely in person, one of them is hybrid, and one of them is purely online. So I could argue this case in 3 different ways, and very convincing, I think. So it's quite interesting to understand how different clubs find their different ways. But I think that's is the most important thing, that when we talk about engagement, when we talk about doing what's right for our members, especially in Toastmasters, there is not a single way of doing it. It depends on, obviously, our clubs, but it also depends on our members. And that's what I'd like to talk about. Okay, so I think we've spoken about the what else part of this, so I will skip that. But just in case I didn't pick up on anything, is there anything else that you'd like to share about what you think is unique as a club that we should be taking into consideration when we say understanding our clubs? Some other aspect. I mean, these could be clearly, location. Yeah. So the 5 P's of marketing and all of that, I understand, right? The price that the membership has to pay, the price for membership, and things like that. But is there anything that you would like to share which you believe is unique about your club that makes a big difference with regard to other clubs? Okay, so either you don't have something to say, or you need a coffee break. If you do need to take a break, please let me know. I'm happy to take an intermediary break if somebody thinks we should. But otherwise, if you don't interrupt me, I will continue till the end. So I don't know what was done, Harry, for the longer presentations. If we do have a moment of a break.
We kept them going and had a break at the end, Turan.
Okay. That's what we'll do. We'll do it as if it were a Toastmasters meeting. We'll go the full set. Okay. Even though I know that there are some clubs that take a break and they a coffee break in between the meetings. So
Yeah, no harm, exactly. I see Ipak has got her hand raised there.
Yeah,
yes, please.
I can share a comment about being unique. So our club is actually a college, I think. I'm also a pretty new member, but I think our classification is being a college club because members have to be an alumni of TED Ankara College. But we are open to guests, and also we are encouraged to go to the other meetings of other Toastmasters clubs. So I think in this way our experience will be more diverse for us.
Yeah.
I attended other meetings, other in-person meetings of Toastmasters clubs in Ankara. So in this way, I think it's good to see the different ways of doing evaluations and club cultures. So in this way, I can consider my club as a pretty unique one. Because we are open to guests as well, and also if they are so eager to stay with us, our members also can evaluate them as well in a certain way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in the case of your club, from what I remember, it is that you need to be an alumni of a certain school to be able to join, but you're not necessarily a student. So it would qualify as a community club with restrictions, just from the technical perspective, right? But obviously, it has a lot to do with the college. So I understand that you're coming from that perspective. But from the Toastmasters, let's say category, it would be a community club with restrictions. But thank you for sharing that, Ipek. That was very kind of you. Okay, I will then go on. So let's look at the side of the clubs. Okay, so let's see what's going on. So if we look at the clubs, we're talking about the quality of meetings, which was mentioned by Liesel already. We spoke of, I mentioned the fees, location, and technology obviously is a factor. The language aspect is a factor. The date and time of the meetings are a factor. The mentoring possibilities is a factor. This is something that you did not mention, but I believe it is very important. If people join a club and they feel that they can have a mentor that will be of value to them, that is certainly an interesting thing to note in terms of being able to engage people. The social media presence, we have obviously Tarek here, so I won't say anything about the importance of it, but if you have any doubts, then please ask Tarek the importance of social media presence. And it goes on and on. Okay, so these are all the things that we need to think about when we're talking about understanding the dynamics of our club. Well, what about our members? Now, I thought about this, and there's probably 1,000 different ways of doing it that come to my mind, and you would have even more ways of doing it. But what I'd like to do today is to look at it because most of you, when you were presenting yourselves, you said, I'm a Toastmaster since. And some of you said it with great pride, and I can relate to that. I understand that. But what I'd like to do is to take a look at our clubs now in terms of understanding how they're positioned with regard to seniority. And when I talk about seniority, I'm not talking about my old age. I'm talking about how many years they've been a Toastmaster. Okay. So, and I'd like to look at it from, let's say, 4 categories. Okay, so we have the new novice people who've been a Toastmaster for less than 6 months. Then we have the learners that are from 6 months to 2 years. We have the seniors who are from 2 to 5 years, and then we have the old timers, the up and over the hill gang, like me, Dennis, Harry, and others maybe. We've been here so long, that we've seen the changes, the pre-pandemics, the pre-pathways, and everything else. Yeah. So I'd like to make the point that these different categories of seniority will have different needs and dynamics regarding to engagement. And I'd like to spend the next half an hour or so to talk about it. And I'd like you to also interact. So when we talk about engagement for novice members, what do you do? What do you do to engage a member that is from 0 to 6 months? I'll add obviously my experience, but I think what I'd like to do is to share. What are you doing that's working, obviously, in terms of engaging them? What do you do?
One of the things that, shall I start? One of the things that we do, which is very successful, is to appoint a mentor. It's not, we don't appoint a mentor for every person. We strongly believe that the need for a mentor must come from the member themselves. So they come and ask to have, they are told that we have a mentoring program, and that if they want to have a mentor assigned to them, then they must speak up and speak to our vice president of mentoring, which happens to be me at the moment. But
okay, they're lucky.
absolutely. The important thing is that by appointing a mentor for those people who would like a mentor, and again, not everybody wants that. Some people are quite happy to carry on their own. It helps them to bridge and to find their feet in the club.
Yeah. I think
and you help them build a network, and you help them through those first few speeches and things, the icebreakers and the body language, vocal variety, etc., sort of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've touched on a couple of points that I'll certainly come back to, Harry. Thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share? Yes, Dennis, please.
Whether mentor or not, our board members, especially VP Education and VP Membership, keeps a close contact with the newer members, like personally messaging or personally calling, not general messages in the WhatsApp group, but personally, you know, we think you can make your icebreaker in the next meeting, or why don't you do your next meeting, your next speech in the next meeting, kind of encouraging, but personally. I think it's a big key.
Yes, the encouragement. I mean, clearly, one of the characteristics of the newer members is that they need more encouragement than the average. Yeah, so that's one aspect of it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Dennis. Who else would like to share? Burcu, yes, please.
So I agree with Dennis with the encouragement, and besides the encouragement, actually what we do is that after they do their icebreaker, so we push them to do the icebreaker as soon as possible. After they do the icebreaker, actually we set them to, we assign one of the club officers to sit together with them and to decide on their pet, so they can start their pet. Pet is also starting a pet in the system is also very encouraging for them, so they have something to follow up. And also what we do is, if there's a new member in the meeting, we always ask the table topics questions first to the new members, so they have the possibility to speak and to see that they are able to speak, because they are usually shy at the beginning, so they need some time, because they hesitate to speak if there are more older members, but they need this push and encouragement, so table topics is a good tool to do that.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Burcu, for sharing that.
Burcu reminded me of something that I really want to say. When we were having face-to-face meetings, and when we're going back to face-to-face meetings, now we're trying to do it again. The icebreakers, we applause, the audience applauses standing. Like every prepared speakers, normally we applaud, of course, after the end of the speech, but only for the icebreakers, we stand up, all room stands up and applauses.
That's wonderful. Okay, that's a very good idea, actually. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share? Yes.
Sorry. The other thing we just recently implemented is that all icebreakers now get a ribbon. We think it's such an important landmark or a milestone for them. You know, once you get into your 2s and 3s and things, you're sort of you're in the flow. But that icebreaker is a big step up for a lot of people. So they get a ribbon to reward them, because they probably won't be the best speech of the evening, or very rarely are, sort of thing. But giving them that ribbon is recognition of having taken that brave step to go and present their icebreaker.
Okay. Great ideas, wonderful ideas. I hope this cross exchange of ideas is useful for everybody, because I certainly have a couple of take home already coming out from the session. Thank you for that. And Asmina, you raised your hand previously, I believe.
Yes, exactly. I remember in the Millionaires Club, there was a habit in the past of breaking the ice literally. There
Yeah, I
was
remember.
there
Yeah.
was the little hammer made from wood, and the people delivering the icebreaker would hit the ice cube and break it, and it would be a nice reason for laughing or adding a bit of literal humor, let's say, to this. And also what I can see from the XCOM chat no, not the XCOM chat, from the WhatsApp group in there from the billionaires, is that the VPM the VPM in this case is very keen on complimenting the people who are giving the icebreaker, and sharing the pics of people who are doing something for the first time, and it is very encouraging. She's mentioning often, and she's talking about them often, and in a good term. And it is something that captures the attention of the members and the people, because this kind of communication on WhatsApp is immediate, and they get to see their own pictures, and they download a picture of themselves because they liked the way they perform. I'm talking about the new members, especially here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Liesel, you have your hand raised. But you're on mute, unfortunately.
There we go. Audible. From my side, I'm very passionate about feedback. I think we ask it often, but we don't always actively implement it. And for me, I think if clubs could, constantly have that feedback loop going, much like we give to speeches or anything else that we evaluate, but this time getting it from the members. What do you like? What don't you like? What would you like to change? And then, systematically and slowly attack the pain points and keep doing what is working well. We get a lot of feedback. We're always bombarded with surveys, but we don't always implement it the best way. So feedback for me is critical and very key.
Yeah, well, feedback is basically our food in Toastmasters, isn't it? I mean, we live based on feedback. Everything is based on feedback. So yeah, clearly. Okay. One thing I'd like to say about feedback, though, and this would be a training session on its own, is adjusting your feedback based on the seniority of who's in front of you. Because, as some of you mentioned, the novice member is really in a stage where looking for confirmation, looking for some sort of encouragement, whereas the old tougher members are actually looking for some really good feedback, meaty feedback of everything that they can improve, right? The novice user is looking at taking the first steps. So we also need to be conscious of the state of our members when we give them feedback. But as I said, that would be something on its own. Okay. Anybody else who would like to share?
I can add something.
Yes, please, Özge. Thank you.
Obviously, like, as a new member in the club, I think it is important that the club makes you feel that it's an open and welcoming club, an inclusive club that doesn't discriminate people or welcome everyone that wants to develop themselves. And I think it is good that it feels that the international Toastmaster is international. It's not like closed community club, but it is international, and there can be some guests from other clubs, and always learning from each other. the culture of learning from each other is there. I think it is good because it makes you feel that it is not as strict. It is always evolving and changing. I think this dynamism also feels good because it's a very old organization. It's a very old institution, and I also felt good that the events are most of the events are open to all Toastmasters, especially who are active members. I'm sure there are a lot of maybe more for distinguished members other events, but I was able to attend an event. It was my first event that I met the CEO of Toastmasters International in person. So I think it was like a very big opportunity.
Yeah.
Than Rex. After I watched his speech, I was impressed, and I really got inspiration from him. So
Oh, that's very good to
that's
hear.
the things I can add.
Very good to hear. Is good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. So I'll just show you. I mean, you've already said everything that is on the rest of the slide, but just to say that I think you've actually said a lot more than what I had to say. So I put an icebreaker exactly as all of you have said. The pathways enrollment process, I think, is a really delicate process, and you've mentioned that already. Assigning a mentor, you've already also mentioned that, and taking roles during the meetings. What I didn't put down here is there are a couple of things that came out from this that I will certainly put into this slide that's been a learning experience for me, especially as some of you mentioned, the rituals around ice breaking and also the table topics as an instrument to get them on board. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So let's look at the second category now for the learners. So if just to remind you, these are people who are from 6 months to 2 years. Okay, so they've gone through at least 1 or 2 renewals. So they actually went through the process. They say, well, do I want to renew my membership? And they thought about it and they said, I want to renew my membership. Okay, so that's, let's say, the most interesting characteristic of these people. Yeah. Whereas with the novice people, we don't know if they're going to renew. Yeah, we don't simply. Of course, Özge, we will be chasing you for your renewals, so you know that already, right? Okay. So what do we do for the learners, for the category of people who are, they've maybe gone to level 1, level 2, they're going to working on their first path, maybe they've already done a path. So what's going on there? What's going on in terms of activities? Yes, Burcu.
I guess they are the ones that need that personal touch at most, because like after finishing level 1 or level 2, people usually stop. They do not go further. There's always a big gap between their level 2 and level 3. So that's why you like more senior members, like more experienced members, when they reach out to them and take them through their experience, that helps them to go further. They even more than the new members, they need this personal touch there.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. What else? Yes, Erasmina.
What I have seen, and it makes sense, is that people get taken into the XCOM because so after already 2 years, let's say almost 2 years from learning, they have become accustomed to public speaking, and they get to broaden their horizon about Toastmasters, not being only about public speaking, but about being the leadership and how to how you communicate well with your colleagues, how to manage the deadlines that are in your work group, and how you handle all those problematic situations.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I mean, it's I think an interesting moment. I'll comment more on that, but I'd like to hear your views on first before I comment on that. Thank you for bringing a very interesting perspective, Rasmina. What else? Okay, a bit difficult.
I would
think
say, can I say,
Yes, Sushil, please.
um, we our club was formed about 1.5 years back, so I can say almost everybody in the club can be said to be the learners. We don't have a very formal program so far. We were mentored by very distinguished Toastmaster seniors from the area, and they used to come to our club and they practiced and they showed us how to encourage everyone at the club. And so that was a lot of positive feedback with a little bit of a area of improvement, kind of a sandwich feedback where more was said about what is already good in you than where you want should be improving. And I think that has set the tone for the learners in the team, and they're all stuck with the process, and that has helped us so far.
Okay. Thank you. Meltem, I saw you raise your hand. Yes. Okay.
I think this part is very important because we can learn from their experience. If I'm supporting Odysseus mentorship, both all members can be a mentee and also they can give mentorship if they finish level 2, because mentors also learn from their mentees. So two-way communication is very helpful. I strongly recommend Odysseus mentorship at this stage.
Okay. Thank you. That's a very good perspective. Thank you. Harry.
Involve them in committees, in organizing events. The more they're involved, the more they get to know their fellow members, the more likely they are to be retained.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I have a couple of things to say here. Maybe some of them are...
Sorry, Meltem's hand is raised again.
Sorry, you raised your hand again, Meltem. Oh, okay. Okay, so for me, this stage, when you're in the, let's say, above the 6 months into the 2 years stage, I think one of the most interesting characteristics that you do, I could go on along about this, is the idea of giving and receiving feedback. Because if you think about it, a lot of people join Toastmasters because they want to, overcome their fear of speaking in public. They want to speak in public. They want to become better speakers, all of those things. They don't, unless it's a very extraordinary case, none of them have an idea of improving their feedback skills. Yeah? It's not on the list when they join the club. And I think one of the most interesting things that people learn when they're able to listen actively, it becomes a skill that is even more important than being able to speak in public, because it's a very versatile skill. The ability to receive and give effective feedback becomes something that is, transcontextual. You can use it in any area of your life, and it really has an impact, a very positive impact, also outside of your life outside of the Toastmasters Club. So I think one of the most interesting things is to work on giving and receiving good feedback. Being able to receive feedback and act on it, I think that was mentioned already. And also the ability to be able to give feedback, I think, is very important, because now I need to speak in front of a public phase is over, right? And you're starting to really build some different skills and competencies to become a good speaker. And my view, personal view, obviously, is to become a good speaker, you need to be a good listener. And I think it's one of the most important moments where you really discover that the ability to listen to other people improves your ability to speak. Yeah, and it's an interesting connection. At least for me, it's been an interesting connection. So my let's say share with you is that make sure that these people are learning and enjoying, obviously, these different occasions of giving and receiving feedback. And I've seen different versions of this. Actually, the feedback itself, as I said, would be a session on its own. But remember, in Toastmasters, we can do it in different ways. We have obviously our normal methods of giving feedback. What did you like? What did you think can improve? What can be a challenge? That's one scheme. The other scheme that you can do is actually take the judge's sheet for any type of speech and use that as a criteria to give feedback. For example, yesterday evening, I was at a club meeting where the feedback was only based on questions. So as the evaluator, the only thing you could do was to ask questions to the speaker and the speaker would answer. So it was a coaching feedback where the evaluator did not say anything about his or her views, but only ask questions to empower the speaker to come up with their own ideas. So it's a very interesting thing. It's very useful for people outside of Toastmasters, and I think it should be one areas where you can engage people. The other one is this was mentioned slightly, but there are two aspects of it. Harry mentioned this in terms of organizing, but I think one of the things that people don't realize is that they can compete. Yeah, you can actually compete from day one. Some people are ready to do it, but usually if you're into your first 2 years, it's a good moment to go and compete, which is, I think, a wonderful experience for those of you who have done it. And it's also a wonderful experience also to support these contests because you understand the dynamics behind the contest. And as you all mentioned, you get to work with different people, and it's a really good teamworking exercise. So that's something to certainly consider. Then this was mentioned already, assigning mentees. Yes, I think that's really a big moment when you're learning something. When you come to the awareness that you're also able to mentor someone, that automatically puts you into good shape because then you really need to know what you're doing. So you become really serious about development of others. And the more you become serious about development of others, the more you become also serious about development of yourself. And the last one I had on this list was the club leadership roles that was mentioned. So I believe you've all confirmed at least that these are elements. You've also added wonderful, bless you, wonderful things to these as well. What else, having said this, would you think about? I think it's important. This is usually this is the second most important category after the novice people because we have a lot of learners, and usually we lose the highest, let's say, non-retention is in this category. Yeah, these people they finish levels 1 and 2, and then they sort of lose the steam. Yeah, that something happens or something doesn't happen is really my point. So we need to certainly raise the bar for these people. Anything that you would like to add after this to this category of learners? Okay, we'll move on.
Yes, very important one. This is assigning mentors. I, as VP mentor, bring that's part of my job. And I try and get people, although we should only assign mentors after they've done the fourth speech in level 2. That's when officially they should be becoming mentors because that project is about mentoring. I tend to assign them after they've done their sort of 4th, 5th speech and they've been there for about 9 to 12 months and things. Because once you start taking responsibility for other people, we all know what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very, very key thing, Harry. Taking responsibility for other people is really a game changer. It's a very strong engaging element, and we should be looking at people to engage that way because I think it's a wonderful experience as well, having done that in the past. So thank you for bringing that. Okay, let's see something else. So then we have the third category, the seniors. Okay, so these are typically people who have finished at least a complete path. We're talking up to 5 years of active Toastmasters presence. They've done things, and we need to take them to the next level. So what about the seniors?
Keep them busy.
Keep them busy. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, keep them busy. Absolutely. One thing that happens, and we nobody mentioned this, but as an engagement tool, but I'd like to just sort of step back a bit in terms of differences between clubs. One of the interesting differences in clubs is the whole idea of best speaker, best evaluator, best table topics. Some clubs do it, some clubs don't do it. There isn't a rule to say to do it or not, but it's interesting in terms of engagement. It is an interesting engagement factor because people like the ribbons and all of those things. But what happens usually when you come to your 4th or 5th year is that you have a box full of them. And of course, the effectiveness of that starts to diminish, right? So clearly there is, I mean, a moment where becoming the best speaker of the evening means something to you, and then at some point you come home and you say, well, I was the best speaker last night, and then you talk about something else because it doesn't have the same impact on you as a person, right? Because you've already experienced that a lot of times. And I think it's the same maybe with different frequencies for all types of recognitions. If you go through the whole path once or twice, and if you've completed the path, then you've basically, probably got all of the ribbons and pins and the iconic, let's say, recognitions that you want, right? So the seniors, as Harry says, we need to keep them busy, certainly, but we need to find also clever ways of engaging them. And I think this is really the most difficult category. Yeah. Oh, hello, Stefano.
Hey, Tara. So you were talking about that, and I've always wondered if there was a way that we could engage seniors by letting them be mentors of teams of mentees or proteges. So what I'm wondering is usually, and I'm making a broad statement here, seniors may have children, and we always want what's best for our children. How do you reproduce that in the Toastmasters world? Well, what if you said, Stefano, Turan, you both get 3 ment proteges, and now your success will be graded on the success of those people. So that now it's like, okay, now I have to work with these people. I have to make them the best that they can be. And again, I don't know if it would work, but it's things that I'm thinking about when you talk about engaging seniors is how can we get them excited and use that excitement to make Toastmasters better. So there's an idea. I'm still trying to figure out.
Thank you for sharing. Absolutely. I mean, I think, the metaphor of children is quite in line because I consider Toastmasters my big family, so it's one of those relationships that are very important. Absolutely, I think the senior engagement is quite interesting subject. It depends on a lot of things that we said in the beginning about the type of club, the dynamics of the club, and what could be a challenge for a senior, right? So because a senior person has learned what they need to learn, so they need a different stimulus, different challenge to be able to go the next step, to be able to do something. So this is something I believe where we don't actively do something because typically, at least I can tell you, in my experience, what I've observed is that the VP and the president of the club are not as senior as the person that they need to motivate, and they decide, well, this person is senior enough that the person can motivate themselves. So they're sort of left there in a situation where they're always available to help and all of that, but there isn't an external type of stimulus on them to say, okay, I'm challenging you to do something. So Stefano, what you said, I think is really interesting. What else can we say about that? What else comes to your mind? What else are you doing at the moment, or you think you should be doing at your clubs? Yes, Dennis, please.
I think besides we ask them to contribute and to do some things, they really like to be able to do what they think right. So if we ask their opinions about what can we do for the new members, for example, and let them free a little bit, at least within a frame, of course, but to do what they think would be good for new members or newer members. So they feel that they can do something because they are them, not just we ask them because they are more experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Asking their opinions, asking their contribution with their freedom.
Yes, and that's a beautiful thing, right? Asking for their contribution with their freedom, because one of the things, at least when I was growing up in Toastmasters, let's say, at some point people sort of said, well, you can now do your own thing, right? Okay, then that's very nice. But then I see other people doing things, and you don't really know if you should interact or you should keep a distance or let them do it their own way. So there's an interesting moment, and I think there's opportunity for other dynamics. Erasmina, you raise your hand and then you put it down. Please.
Yes, what I wanted to say is that one thing that I see and one thing that I also see but could be done in another way. The first thing that I see is that senior people, they usually, just like they have become members of the ExCom I was talking about there before, then they get taken into managerial roles bigger than that, like area director or can be division director. And this is for what I saw. And also another thing that I wanted to say is that these seminars, these kind of tutorials, educationals like this one, I've seen them being done by very senior, way senior, like a DTM or something. I think, but I think that it could also be the right moment for senior members within this time frame, 5 years, no more than that, to get them started, because just like the mentee, the mentor, just like the mentor from before, the learner is able to mold, to transmit his own knowledge to one single person. Then in this way, when they do educational and do this kind of seminars, they can get motivated with, look, you will be able to transmit your knowledge and to set the example for a wider audience. So this is a natural increase in reach of the teaching process that starts with mentor and then becomes way more wide with this kind of seminar, tutorial, and educationals.
Okay, thank you, Erasmina. That's a very good point. Thank you, Meltem.
Thank you, Turan Bey. I think HPI projects are very important, teamworks, especially between 2 or 3 club members. So experienced member, they share point of view and new members can learn. So there is a very good synergy among clubs by the HPI projects to support teamwork. Over to you, Turan Bey.
Okay, thank you, Meltem. That's also a very good point. Özge, did I see your hand raised? Yes, I will give. Then Tarek, I see you as well. So you're in line. Okay. And Meltem, please put your hand down, otherwise you'll get tired.
I don't know if it is an ongoing thing, but I think the seniors could give speeches outside Toastmasters, like as a duty. I mean, as a project. So that and they can also talk about Toastmasters and of course acquire some new members, but also do speeches outside Toastmasters environment and then come and give feedbacks to their club, how it was, how it went, and maybe record it and share it. And also, I think now with all these technology changes, presentation is always changing, and I think the seniors could be the ones that know the basic how to give speeches. I think they can innovate in a way that make more interesting speeches online or hybrid, and they can like focus on more innovative and improvements in speeches, and they can maybe go to other clubs and educate the others about this subject. So I think it can be encouraging for the seniors.
Well, I'm really curious to know the seniors in your club how they feel about this, because you've given them a really long list of things to do now. Yeah. Okay. So that's wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, Tarek. Sorry, you were in line as well.
Yes, thank you. What I have been listening to everybody, and I just wanted to clarify, is this a real thing about novice, seniors, old timers, or is it something that you came up with?
It's
That's my
something
first.
I invented, Tarek, because I had nothing better to do. There isn't any real category as such, and it's just my perceived way of looking at it from the different perspectives. But it has nothing. There's nothing official in anything that I've done here, in terms of
Okay.
thinking it that way. But you could if you wanted to. That's what I'm saying.
The reason why I ask is that because in our own district, the Toastmasters of Switzerland had the Swiss Novice, where they
I
gave an
know. Yes.
opportunity for the young Toastmaster members to have a competition, to have a feel for this. And I'm thinking, why not we do a competition for the seniors or for the old timers with different categories that would get them more involved and see the levels between members who have been Toastmasters for a while.
Okay, well, I have a one slide, special slide for the old timers coming up, and it's basically more or less empty because I don't have a clue, obviously, because I feel I'm one of those. But very good idea, Ty. I will certainly get back to you in a couple of minutes on that idea, because some things I'd like to ask. Wonderful, thank you, thank you. So what I had in my mind when I was preparing this, and you've now obviously I've learned a lot from you, and that's I think. I'll connect it to also what was said here. One of the good things of doing an educational session is that you actually get to learn from a lot of people. Yeah. Because you come up with some of these ideas, you start bouncing them off, and obviously people in the room have better ideas than you do, and so you take home a good load of things. So one of the things I believe for seniors, and obviously this thought is contaminated by the fact that I also happen to be the district committee leadership chair this year. So I'm looking for officers for next year. But one of the things that you can do after you've done the different club officer roles and you've done the club VP and you've become the club president is you can then become an area director, and then you can become a division director, and then you can go and do all of these different roles in the district and have a lot of fun meeting different people all over. So the next level would be a district leadership role, certainly for these people. Then you know they are people who are well known, and you can have them as masters of ceremonies and chief judges in division and district contests and things like that. These people probably have enough experience to become club coaches, club mentors, club sponsors, opening new clubs, helping clubs that are in difficulties. And as it was mentioned, they can do educationals at the club level, the COT level, and all sorts of things like that. So there's clearly a lot of ideas came out. I appreciate that. And we need to create new challenges for these people. We need to get them engaged, because if otherwise, if you ask them to do another pathways, that may become less stimulating as the time moves on. Anything else you'd like to add before we talk about the old timers?
Yeah, just before we sort of move on from there, I think that, Turan, I was just thinking as we were talking through these, very often when we organize contests and things, or we organize special events within the club, the people who tend to do the organization happens to be the committee members, because they're sitting there, they decide, okay, we are going to have an event. So somebody says, oh, I'll do it, sort of thing. But this is where we should be reaching out to those people outside the committee who are not actively engaged as the committee members are, and get them to do this organization and things. So I think what you talked here is just crystallized something for me. I think that should be taken back to the club.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. Yes, I believe that. I mean, these people, at least I can tell you from my perspective, when I was going through these stages in my Toastmasters experience, you come to a point where you go and intervene if you're called upon to do so, but otherwise you let the club officer team, the club officer executive team do their thing, right? I mean, you don't want to go and say, I'll tell you how it's done.
Of course, yeah.
But that relationship, I think, is an interesting one where there needs to be probably more interaction, obviously, for giving the executive team the full powers to decide, but being there available for them to do things. And they don't necessarily have to do everything. You know, they can ask also people with experience to do that. So yeah, that's certainly something I think we should consider. Okay, I'm conscious of time. So I will move on to the old timers, okay? I fall into this category. I know a couple of you also fall into this category, you know, with all respect, that they're old doesn't mean old from the age perspective, but the number of years in Toastmasters, okay? And it's something that I've asked myself, and it was probably the most difficult questions for me was, you know, if you've gone through this, you've become the district director and all of that, and now I'm the past district director. So what's going to engage me? I asked myself the question, okay? And I did come up with a couple of answers, but before I share them with you, so what would you do? How do you, you know, how do you get engaged, and what would you recommend to engage the old timers? Because the old timers, they've gone through different things, you know, they've gone through, you know, they probably worked on the old competent communicator series. They saw the beginning of Pathways. They were there before the pandemic and all sorts of things, right? So what do we do for these old timers? First of all, how many of you are aware of these people being around? Yeah, okay, Graham. Okay. I haven't heard you speak today, Graham, so tell me.
No, sorry, I was taking a break, and I needed that after several hours this morning. But just coming into your talk at the time for seniors, I'm one myself, and I don't have a particular desire to get into Toastmaster management through the ranks. I did this before 2000, but I'd rather see other people do it. But I love the idea that you're saying, give them a role, give them a conference management, give them a special seminar, ask for any sort of particular advice, so that when I've finished on the committee in my current work, I wouldn't mind going into retirement mode again. I have so many other things in life than Toastmasters that I just do what I can do in the best way to help efficiently.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Graham. Wonderful. Wonderful. Who else would like to say something? Okay, difficult one.
Yeah, I think
okay, Matt.
Perhaps from my perspective, sort of think the old timer is probably a wonderful tag in some respect. When you've been around for long enough, you've stopped the active learning part. You still learn as you go along. I don't think you ever stop learning and things, but you're not on that sort of massive path where you're sort of learning from 0 up to 100 sort of thing. You've reached a plateau sort of thing. So you pick up little things as you go along. So your reasons for staying at that point become there's almost no reason for you to stay with Toastmasters any longer, apart from, you know, keep on practicing.
Yeah.
So at that point, from my perspective, it's about starting to put back into the organization.
Yeah.
And those of us who start putting back into the organization know how much reward we get out of it. But not everybody makes that transition from, I've learned, I know how to do it now, I've got all the skills, I no longer need this, and move on to making the transition into starting to pass information and skills on to other people and things.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting state. When you're not actively called upon to do any succession planning or transfer of knowledge, then you sort of sit there, yeah, and you know you're not challenged to improve because what you do is probably good, and it becomes more difficult to improve if you've become fluent in something. Meltem, I believe you raised your hand at some point and then put it down, so I don't know if that's still valid.
Same with Harry. Thank you, Turan Bey. Same with Harry. Thank you.
Same with Harry. Okay. Okay. What about Deniz? You've also, you mentioned in the beginning you have 2 DTMs already, probably a third one in your pocket going to come out any moment soon. So what about you? What do you do to keep being engaged? And what would you recommend to us?
For me, it's more like not only limiting myself to one club, 2 clubs, or only one area or only my country. So also the conferences is really amazing to keep me active, and not only the district conference but also the international conference that I got to see the other long-time members there who were attending the international conference like 30 times, 40 times, and visiting different clubs whenever I'm traveling anywhere. And most of the time, this happens in clubs in US. I could meet people who founded the club 30 years ago and still coming to the meetings. So when you encounter these kind of examples, you see, you start to think what those people could be feeling or getting back so that they are still doing it. And at first, even you don't feel that, you give it a chance because you saw others doing it.
Yeah.
And
you get inspired by others like that. Yeah.
you start to feel the same things yourself. That's why, for me, I was always try to be a role model, and I always have an eye on role models. And I think that's what we should encourage the older members to be a role model, and we show them that we appreciate that, so that they grab that thing that for themselves also.
Yeah, being role models. Okay, thank you for that. That's very nice. Okay. Okay, I'll share a couple of things that I thought about. Oh, sorry, excuse me, Liesel, yes.
Yes, from my side.
I was distracted by the background. Sorry, I didn't see the hand raised. I was looking.
I'm on the move, sorry. For me, I think, when I attended or any Toastmasters engagement and people start sharing their biography and they go, I've been around for like 20 years, I've been around for like 10 plus years. And the first thing that comes to my mind is like, how did you manage to stay this long? So, and through all the changes, because we all know change is inevitable, but it's also very difficult to adapt.
Yeah.
So if you've been able to stay around through all of the changes that has been going on for 20, 30 years, what are you doing that we could learn from? So I think for me, that would be a very key thing to engage those members with, is like share your experiences. Why are you still here, and how did you manage to still stay here? Also learn from that. So yeah, that is my 2 cents.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Wonderful. Okay, so I'll just go through a couple of points that came to my mind, and I'll add a couple of more as you were speaking. Obviously, thanks to you, I have now more ideas about what it could be. So the first one, I think, is the role of the ambassador. Yeah, the role of the ambassador, which could be, as some of you mentioned, internal to the Toastmasters world, but it could also be external to the Toastmasters world, because you know enough about the organization, the people, the culture, and everything that goes on to be able to represent the company, the corporation. Okay. Then the other aspect, I think, which was very useful for me, and I would recommend all of you who take on a leadership role, is to think about the leadership mentoring side of it. I was conscious that I had come to a point in my Toastmasters career where public speaking was not the main focus, but I wanted to work on my leadership. And I looked for a leadership mentor. And I think there's a difference between mentoring for leadership development and mentoring for public speaking. So this is something to consider. And old-timers, some of them who want to be, especially people who've already had roles as district directors or governors, can be good leadership mentors. It's not about just the public speaking side of it, but it's really mentoring people to become better leaders in this organization. Okay. Then, okay, I mean, I'm repeating it myself here, the workshops and trainings and everything else and keynote speakers. But one of the other things that came to my mind as I was speaking with you, especially stimulated by what Dennis said, I happen to be in one of my clubs, the only founding member. And the VPM reached out to me and a couple of days ago, and she said, so tell me something that's unique about our club. And I realized that a lot of people don't know, and this could be true also for your clubs, of how the club name was chosen. So in the chartering process, the club chooses its name, right? And that comes from a brainstorming activity, and you think about things, and it's actually the first seeds of the specific values and the culture and the ideas that were there at that moment when the club was founded and chartered. And because, as we spoke, even if you have a good retention rate, it happens that after many years, nobody's there anymore to remember what was said. So these people also have these special moments of when something happened for the first time in the club, right? And that's, I think, also something else that you can ask these old timers to do. So I've certainly picked up a couple of things today from my end. Okay. I would like to ask you now, what are the actions that you can implement that will have a positive impact for your engagement based on what happened today? Just if there is something that I haven't finished the presentation. I have 2 finishing slides yet, so, don't walk away. I still have a couple of things I'd like to say to wrap up. But before I do that, before we go into more reflective mode, and close the session, what is something that you can take home from today that would have an impact? And I'd like you to reflect on that. And if you would like, I would be very happy if you could share that of something that you're going to do as a consequence of the conversations we had today. So I see that the silence could be linked to lack of coffee.
And I don't want to be the first one every time.
Okay. That's
I will. How's that?
Oh, I see Graham wants to speak as well. Then I will interrupt you, Harry, and give the floor to Graham, who has not spoken as much as others have today. So please, Graham.
Excellent.
I was just thinking about something I gave the other day, and it was very successful, and it started up my new career as a stand-up comedy artist.
Wow.
It was a Toastmasters meeting, and I made up a talk, and I did a lot of preparation, an enormous amount of data on the 1960s. And I did this because I found that most of my club were born after the year 2000. They haven't got a clue. So this is actually, they were interested. And then, so I put it all together. That is what happened to me in the 60s. I was a teenager. We were going through Cold War and the Beatles and so on. And I made a speech out of it, 7-minute speech. And then a few days later, I did a 10-minute stand-up of the same, and then a 15-minute stand-up of the same. And each time I've been adding something, so it's been an awful lot of fun. I've been adding the first lines of all sorts of old songs, pop songs, and now I'm going to put in a few words from speakers like John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King. So all in all, it's going to turn out into a big thing. And the point is, I'm an old guy. There's a hell of a lot I can give these people because they were interested. Some loved the history and spiced with music, and some loved the music spiced with history.
Well, then you'd certainly need to share when you're going to do that. If there's any way to participate online, I'd love to be able to listen to it. Now that you've got me interested in it, I'm certainly very curious to know. So thank you for sharing that, Graham. Thank you very much. Harry, I apologize for having interrupted you, but
not at all. Glad you took Graham first for a change. I think the key thing, Turan, I'm going to take back is that our more senior members that aren't on the committee and that aren't actively involved on a week by week basis, is to give them tasks like organizing events and etc. sort of thing, because that will give them a reason to be there, and it will give them engagement back with the members. Because the old timers, the ones who come back, they come back occasionally, and by the time they come back, there's probably 3, 4, 5 new members and things which they haven't met.
Yeah.
And so over a period of time, they become almost disassociated with the group at large. They know the older members that have been there for a long time, but those members eventually tend to move on as well. So eventually there's this single person that's been a member for maybe 20 years, but who comes along once every second month, but knows nobody. And by giving them a task like organizing an event, we get them involved, and then they get to know the members again, which is, I think, important in any club environment for the dynamics of the club and the retention figures.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Harry. Anybody else? Okay. Then I would like you to just leave you with a big question. I said I'm very fond of questions, so I have a big question. And I believe all of us have this big question. It's probably one of the most important questions that our members have. And I believe everybody, regardless of your club, area, division, district, have this question. And the question is a really simple one in a sense. It is, what's in it for me? Yeah. This is a question that I think every member asks themselves, either consciously or unconsciously. Next club meeting, what's in it for me? This question is there for everybody. And the answer to this question evolves. Yeah, we join Toastmasters typically because we want to become better speakers, or we want to overcome our fear of speaking in public, whatever it might be. But a couple of months or years down the road, it's not the same anymore. It evolves, and we need to find answers to that question constantly in our clubs. And that's, I think, really the key of engagement. So for me, engagement about finding answers to each member's what's in it for me question. That's, I think, really what it's about. It's about creating a challenge. Everybody can have a challenge. Challenges are different in different stages of our lives, in our Toastmasters careers and seniorities. We'll have different challenges. We need to be confronted with those challenges, and the club needs to create those challenges for those people. And we need to build the bridge between our members, what's in it for me, and the club mission. And I'd like to close with the club mission, which I'm sure we all remember. But we are here because we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much.